Good morning and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. So today we are talking about The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. So this is the second book in the Broken Earth trilogy. So if you've not watched the first review on this series, be sure to check out the N.K. Jemisin playlist on this channel. So essentially this whole storyline takes place in this world that is basically controlled, or rather there's the magic system that controls the elements of the earth. Specifically, they're referred to as origins, so they have the ability to manipulate and control the tectonic forces of the earth. They can create earthquakes, they can stop or still earthquakes, and the primary action within this story takes place on this vast continent spanning the entire globe from north to south. It's referred to as the stillness, which is kind of funny when you think about, I don't know, because it's a very tectonically active continent as well, which is why these origins are constantly trying to stop these earthquakes and control them. And just really a fascinating magic system is one of the things I'm really liking about this book series. The entire concept of being able to control the elements of the world in which they live, which is just really, really cool. So this one kind of starts off with the stories kind of overlapping with the end of the last book. So it kind of starts off with the narrator is telling us about the story of Jiga and Isan, who is Issa's husband, and how he killed her son and took off with her daughter Nason. And she's, of course, searching for, trying to find her daughter. We have the whole pirate drowning of the Guardian, which kind of overlaps with the end of the first book as well. So it really kind of starts off with that high intensity, that action, that adventure, that intense situation. Really just a great way to get into the whole book from the beginning. And of course, we continue to learn more about each and every individual character. We learn more about Nason, who is Isan's daughter, and her storyline, where she's gone, why her father has taken her away, and just a really kind of great way to get into that as they both kind of, Isan and Nason, both kind of learn about the Obelisk Gate and what needs to be done with that, what that Obelisk Gate is, and how it all kind of meshes together into the grand finale of this book, but not the end of the story as a whole. One thing I'm really liking about this series, and particularly about Nason's storyline. So she basically witnessed her brother's murder. She's confused about her father's recent behavior. He seemed like such a loving father until he turned on his family. And she fears him yet loves him at the same time. So she's really confused about what's going on and why that's happening. And we learn more about her story. And I think what's really fascinating, what I really like about this whole storyline is there's very, very strong parallels between the characters and the LGBTQ, or gender and sexual romantic minority community within this book and this book series as a whole. So, of course, we have Mason. She is an origin. Her brother was murdered by her father because her brother was also an origin. And they're born with this power. It's an innate part of who they are. They cannot change it. They cannot control that. It's simply part of who they are. They are effectively born that way. But the origins, who have the power to control the forces of the earth, they are viewed with hatred, suspicion, fear, and often they are sought out and killed while they're still young, because the people fear them. They don't understand them, they're afraid of them, even though origins themselves have prevented so many natural disasters. By controlling the elements of the earth and preventing disaster, they have served a net benefit to humanity, but people still fear them because of what they are. And so Nason's whole storyline is based around this concept that her father is desperately fearful of her, and he's taking her away to be cured. And what he would view cure is to rid her of this power. And it's really interesting the parallels that are drawn there, because At one point, they are faced with Nason and her father are faced with the choice between death or Nason utilizing her powers to save them. And she doesn't want to. She fears. She says, but, and her thought process, but daddy wants his little girl. He doesn't want an animal. He doesn't want a monster. And she hesitates to do what needs to be done. Just some of the quotes from this book really serve to emphasize that whole concept and how those parallels are drawn. One of them says, "You aren't evil. You are exactly as nature made you. And that is special, Nason. Special and powerful in ways that are atypical even for one of your kind. Where things like when Nason says things like making my origin go away, Nason, who's at this point is expressing the desire to purge herself of the natural state and to once again be normal. Or Nason, a girl whose mother never loved her, only refined her, and whose father will only love her again if she can do the impossible and become something that she is not. And at one point, Nason says, but I like being an origin. This is a terrible thing, she's saying. It's a terrible thing that she loves herself. Where she expresses, I wish you could love me anyway, even though I'm bad. So all of these aspects throughout it really emphasize her desire to please her father, her desire to not be an origin, to not have this curse that she has come to view it because her father killed her brother for it. She's fearful that her father will never love her again if she does not cure herself of this curse in the way in which she's born. So we really kind of feel for her and the trials and the struggles that she is going through. And that is really powerful. And I think that that is why her storyline particularly, and I know I'm kind of focusing a lot on that, but I really liked her storyline within this book, and I think that's some really good stuff there, and definitely part of what makes this book really, really interesting for me. And it's not just Nathan, like there's other things as well, such as Alabaster, who is the most powerful origin ever known. He's basically forced to have sex with a whole bunch of different women in an effort to pass on his orogenic genes through by order of the fulcrum. It's nothing that he actually ever wanted for himself, though. And at one point, it was suggested to him. This is more going back to the first book, but at one point, it was suggested to him, "Oh, you're the most powerful origin in the world. Why don't you just refuse?" And he's basically given up on refusing because he says, "What's the point in refusing? They're just going to keep sending more to me until I give in to their demands." And so he has no interest in that for himself. But at one point, he jumped on the opportunity to engage in sex with a man. And so we have this contrast between the two. The way the origins suffer as a class that is hated, despised, and mistrusted, and the gender and sexual romantic minority community. I love that about this book. It really speaks to that area. At least it does for me. I mean, I won't pretend to know what the author's intentions were, but that's really what I'm getting from this, and I'm really enjoying that. And I think overall it is just a fantastic read. And I really look forward to getting on to the next book, The Stone Sky, in this series. So those are just some of my thoughts on the Obelisk Gate. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, we'll see you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Until then, keep reading. See you then. Bye.